Okay. Greetings, everyone. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad that you are here. Today's nonsense is in the format of Explorer. That's right. We are venturing into the brand new format on Magic Arena. It's the Magic Arena's version of Pioneer. So just very similar to Historic without some of the anthologies and Jumpstart and that sort of thing. So you'll see a lot of the similar things. But notably, the ban list is the same as Pioneer. Or at least it was when I was recording these videos. We've had to go back and do just a little bit of modifying because there was just an announcement of a ban of Winota. The gameplay is recorded before that, and I do think the decks holds up, even though the Winota ban. So the only changes I think you might consider making are maybe Containment Priest here. You might intend to do something more graveyard oriented because I expect in the future for Parhelion combo to be doing more. But on that note, Containment Priest specifically for Winota, and this could be something else. Other than that, we are a Bant counters deck. So we have Brokers Ascendancy at the beginning of each of your end step. Put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control, and a loyalty on each planeswalker. We're not running any planeswalkers today because we're also running Hadana's Climb, 3 mana. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. Then, if it has 3 or more 1/1 counters, flip Hadana's Climb into a land that taps for 1 of any color, and you can pay 3, tap it. Target creature you control gets flying, and +X/+X, where X is equal to its power. So we just double up creature's power, give it flying. So we're trying to grow creatures quick using counters. So we've got a couple of Hardened Scales, and some aggressive creatures. The only other card in here that you would need to know about is Quandrix Command. Obviously, it works with game plan, adding counters. But it also allows us to bounce target creature or planeswalker to its owner's hand. So theoretically, we could wait for our opponent to, if they are on Parhelion, and we can either bounce the 4/3 Greasefang, or we could bounce the Parhelion itself once it's been activated, but before it attacks. We can also use it to shuffle Parhelions back into their graveyard, or just other graveyard synergies as well, of course. But it also works for Winota as well. When they slam their Winota, we can return the creature to its owner's hand in response to that stuff. It is also kind of a sneaky play against Planeswalker synergies using the Wandering Emperor. Because the way AppNap works is the first player gets priority. So we are able to be doing, we can kind of interact after they've got things on the stack, all that kind of thing, right? And we can bounce sometimes our own creature, or maybe just send their planeswalker back just to as a tempo player, whatever, while we get in. So without further ado, though, let's see if we can actually get some wins. All right, folks, here we are up against Schaefer. Good luck, Schaefer. And yeah, I think this hand is a keeper. So we're going to go ahead. There is definitely a number of different directions we could take this hand. We could go with the Hopeful Initiate to start, potentially the Swarm Shambler to start. And initially we were going to go with the Initiate, but finally decided on Swarm Shambler after all, just because then we can more efficiently spend our mana on turn 2 to pump the Shambler and then grow the Initiate in combat the next turn. This is kind of banking on not being interacted with, but it turns out our opponent's playing Gates. That is a Simic Guild Gate over there, and a Maze's End on the battlefield as well now. So we know we've got to be quick. So Swarm Shambler, get in, grow the Hopeful Initiate, put counters on the team. Absolutely don't mind if I do. Opponent has the Maze's End, or has a Forest Enter alongside the Maze's End and Simic Guild Gate for Guild Summit. Well, Hadana's Climb going to come down and flip for us. Counters go on, and Schaefer is staring down 10 power on their turn 4. Of course, it was only, I wouldn't blame them for feeling just a little bit under siege here, but, GG. That's all it took. All right, folks, and here we go, up against Agnes. Good luck, Agnes. Got a quick win on the first one. Let's see if we can keep that trend continuing. We're going to start on Hardened Scales. And, oh no, our opponent hits us with Divest. Yuck. If you're running Divest, you've got a whole bunch more hand disruption, I'm pretty sure. So, we just decided to go with Stonecoil Serpent for X equals 2, which, of course, with the Hardened Scales means X equals, or it gives us 3 counters. Largely because we're kind of expecting a lot more hand disruption. Oh my goodness, it turns out it was Thoughtseize afterward. So it was indeed lots more. And we were just going to try and deploy our Hadana's Climb is what we really wanted to do. So we wanted a blue land. Didn't get it. No big deal though. We just keep crashing in. Jegantha added a hand. Conclave Mentor off the top, turn before last. Jump into the red zone there. Our opponent having to pass the turn back. But darn it, you can take all of the cards out of our hand. You can't Thoughtseize away what's on the board, and those Thoughtseize costing Agnes a fair amount of life. They need an answer to the board, and they need it right now. Okay, well, darn it. As soon as I was, mentioning they need it right now, they have it. Inscription of Ruin takes care of our snake, but Jegantha the Wellspring comes down, and our opponent doesn't have an answer to that. So GG, Agnes, GG. All right. The Dovination. Our opponent, they're starting with Thoughtseize as well. Of course, folks, you're going to see a lot of hand disruption here in these videos, I think, because everyone's trying to prepare for Winota, right? And one of the best ways of handling Winota was have that turn 1 hand disruption. Otherwise, they just deploy a bunch of their things, and you may or may not have an instant speed removal spell handy, and then they slam Winota and the game ends, right? Well, okay. So our deck, not nearly as susceptible. Our opponent comes down with Elderfang Disciple on 2. Forces us to discard a Quandrix Command. Not thrilled about it, but it is what it is. So we go with a Gala Greeters, crash in with a Hopeful Initiate. We're hoping to be able to slam just the rest of our hand. But no, our opponent's got a Heartless Act, which is not a very good card against our deck in general, because, you know, it's all counter-based. But, you know, they are able to get it out of their hand in a timely manner. So this turn we go with Gala Greeters and 2 Hopeful Initiates. Of course, we're hoping to grow both of those by attacking with the Gala Greeters, which will have greater power. Darn it, opponent has a sacrifice effect, forcing us to get rid of the Hopeful Initiate. Man, oh man, second opponent in a row that's trying to tax our resources heavily. But the good thing about the last opponent, similar to the good thing about this opponent, is they're addressing our hand, having a hard time addressing the board. Opponent elects to chump block the Gala Greeters. We play our land for the turn. Opponent has Davriel Rogue Shadow Mage, but man, that's just not going to do it. Let's just run out Stonecoil Serpent for X equals 4, giving us a 5/5, and do combat. Yep, the Dovination saying that's good enough. GG. And in fact, it was. All right, folks, here we are up against Lays on the Couch. Good luck, Lays on the Couch. We are going to start with a Hallowed Fountain. They start with Duress. Okay. Takes our Ranger class. Boy, oh boy, that's one that we wanted pretty bad. But we do get to go with Gala Greeters. If we can follow that up with Conclave Mentor, we'd be pretty happy about it. Oh my goodness, Thoughtseize. Good grief. Can we keep some of our cards, please, opponents? Oh my word. But okay. Conclave Mentor, come down. Put counters on the Gala Greeters, charge in for 3. Lays on the Couch, down to 15. Thinking about it, has Heartless Act for Conclave Mentor. Gain a couple of life. I mean, alright. We're going to charge in with Gala Greeters. Drop the Containment Priest to grow it just a little bit. And Lays on the Couch, down to 11. Chandra Torch Defiance, that's inconvenient. Getting rid of our Gala Greeters means that we have not a whole lot of a clock here. We elect to hold up the Quandrix Command. because we can either, you know, put counters on the Containment Priest to grow it and make it into a better threat, or we could bounce it back to our hand in response to removal or something. Our opponent does none of those things, so fine. We crash in. Opponent has the Sokenzen. Double blocks. Trying to force this Quandrix Command out of our hand. Well, they, you know, they got it. We elect to shuffle some of our good cards back into our deck because, you know, we would like a higher threat density. We almost decided to shuffle a bunch of their cards back just to prevent Croaks stuff. But darn it, we want... Oh my gosh. Another Thoughtseize takes away our Jegantha. We draw another land. Man, it is always unfortunate. Like, folks, again, you know, we top out at 3. We don't have that many lands in this deck, so just continually drawing lands is kind of a death knell. We're not out of it, but the game is absolutely slipping through our fingers right now. We go with Swarm Shambler. Just trying to get enough threats on the board. We hold on to the breeding pool. Oh, no. Okay. Well, our opponent flips their Kiki-Jiki. The good thing is we have Containment Priest, and Containment Priest is definitely a solid answer to the Kiki-Jiki, or a reflection of Kiki-Jiki, as it were. But, you know, it is what it is. All right, I guess. Another Swarm Shambler. Would have liked one of our payoffs there, just to turn our creatures into more powerful threats, but alas, it is what it is. Blood Tithe Harvester comes down. Blood Tithe Harvester number 2 comes down, and okay, oh, that's a good one. Brokers Ascendancy, make it to the battlefield. The unfortunate thing is, since if it had just been the one Blood Tithe Harvester, we could grow our Swarm Shamblers outside of the range of getting them removed. Unfortunately, they have 2 blood tokens as well as 2 Blood Tithe Harvesters, so they're just going to trade their Blood Tithe Harvesters for our Swarm Shamblers, which normally wouldn't be a big deal because, you know, they're trading 2-drops for our 1-drops. That's normally a good thing. The problem is our opponent is not flooding out, and they have these blood tokens. We are flooding out, and we do not. So suddenly, our opponent's on 5, and that is not a very high life total, but we've got nothing going on, and our deck just is betraying us in the most vicious and inexcusable ways right now. Thank heavens, we finally draw a card that does something. Admittedly, we would have preferred a creature, but it is what it is. Brokers Ascendancy not doing a whole heck of a lot. At least this is something. So we're trying to decide what to do with Quandrix Command. We could, oh no. Graveyard Trespasser is going to make quick work of our life total. And suddenly, I'm just not sure what we can even draw. Well, okay. We were wanting synergy pieces earlier in the game, and now we've got all of them. But we didn't have them when we had creatures. And now that we have creatures, or we don't have creatures, we get all our synergy pieces. So suddenly, all of these things are bad. Yeah, I kind of punt here, folks. In response to the Kiki-Jiki activation, I was supposed to get rid of the Graveyard Trespasser. My initial thoughts were I need to get rid of the Hive of the Eye Tyrant, but that was just folly. You know, it would have been better. I could have saved more damage, you know, if I had just prevented all that in the first place. It doesn't really matter because, you know, we just draw a land, but oh well. It is what it is. Lays on the couch, able to get there. Unfortunate, but able to get there. GG, opponent, GG. Alright, folks, here we are up against Joe Diddles. Good luck, Joe Diddles. Gonna start on Botanical Sanctum and Swarm Shambler coming on into the battlefield. Going to go with Luminarch Aspirant next. Well, wait, hold on. Yeah, briefly considering the Ranger class because it would have been nice to just get it on the battlefield. But getting the Luminarch Aspirant down means that our Conclave Mentor can start making all of these into very, very nasty threats all on their own, as long as our opponent doesn't have board sweeper stuff. Oh my goodness, Thunderherd Migration. You're kidding me right now. Joe Diddles reveals Regisaur Alpha, which is absolutely terrifying. But the good news is we pulled Brokers Ascendancy off the top, and in order to be mana efficient, we decided to jam that because our creatures are getting very large now. Next turn, we intend to hopefully be able to slam both our two drops if we draw a land, because essentially every land in the deck is untapped, but our opponent isn't even going to give us that chance, just scoops it up because they can't get on the board quickly enough. GG, Joe Diddles. GG. All right, folks, here is TTG. Good luck, TTG. We're going to start on a Swarm Shambler, and our opponent goes with Blood Crypt. Okay, well, seeing a lot of that today, we go with Conclave Mentor. We're hoping to be able to start, you know, slamming Brokers Ascendancies and maybe Hadana's Climbs and make things interesting on our opponent. Oh boy, it looks like they might give us a chance. Yes, please. Oni Cult Anvil on 2 instead of a removal spell means Broker's Ascendancy can join the party, and with Conclave Mentor still on the battlefield, suddenly our threats are real, baby. Yeah. 2 1/1 counters go on each of our creatures. Suddenly Conclave Mentor a 4/4, Swarm Shambler a 3/3. Don't mind if I do. Opponent shocks in for Mayhem Devil. Okay. Well, that is concerning. But it turns out they don't have any removal. We were worried they might have, like, you know, whatever, Fatal Pushes and stuff. They don't, so it didn't matter. GG. GG. All right, folks, here we are up against Burnin' Fire. Good luck, Burnin' Fire. Uh-oh, they start on Raugrin Triome with Yorion. This has got to be something relatively controlling. That's okay. When you're up against a control deck, you do want to try and get on the board early, so we do that. Swarm Shambler on 1 is a good thing to be doing. The Spire's Headquarters, folks, we only have one of them, and it's the only tap land in our entire deck. We were going to go with just 21 lands, but I felt like that might be too few, so it's essentially the 60th card, right? We have 59 other cards and Spire's Headquarters, just to make sure we can cast our different 3-color cost cards, you know? A little bit awkward here, but it is nice that we can accomplish that objective, right? We can cast triple color cards on 3 if we so choose. Opponent goes with Birth Melodus, finds a Plains, plays the Plains, and Portable Holes. All right. Yeah, that's unfortunate. All right, you got us, Burnin' Fire. All right, well, trying to decide how to go about this. We decide, oh boy, Luminarch Aspirant makes this much easier, so Swarm Shambler, Luminarch Aspirant pass the turn, counter goes on to the Luminarch Aspirant, and see what our opponent has to say about these things. Birth of My Lettuce gives a 0/4. Opponent, reading our Swarm Shambler, in the tank, goes with Deafening Clarion. Well, that's a bummer. Okay. We, after a very brief deliberation, decide that Stonecoil Serpent as a 4/4 gets around future Deafening Clarions and things very well. So we elect to do that. It's also true that they only had just a single blue source up, so if they had a counter spell, they could have had a Spell Pierce. So jamming Broker's Ascendancy would have been riskier. So jamming a creature means it's unlikely to get countered. It's more difficult to remove. So let's go this direction, right? Teferi comes down. Now, notably, folks, Stonecoil Serpent is protection from multicolored. It's quite possible our opponent punted just a little bit here because they might have been thinking they could just tuck the Stonecoil Serpent, right? And then realize they couldn't. And turns out, oh boy, they end up having to go up. Wow, Ranger class comes out of hand. That's kind of a good one here. It both impacts the board and grows our Stonecoil Serpent all in the same breath. It also resolves, which is very notable. We were afraid it would get counterspelled here. thinking about running out Stonecoil Serpent X equals 2 if it did, you know, those sorts of things, but it didn't end up being a big concern. So Ranger class does the 1/1 counter thing. Opponent trying to decide if they want to give up on an 0/4 wall or give up on Teferi Hero Dominaria. Gonna say, I think the answer there is very likely quite clear. And Teferi takes 1. We will not be running out an X equals 0 Stonecoil Serpent. Thank you, game. Opponent goes ahead and draws another card. Up to 6 in hand. Inconvenient. Narset Parter of Ales comes down. Also inconvenient. Narset Parter of Ales goes down. Digging through magic cards, finds a Shark Typhoon. Oh boy, that's a scary one for sure. Well, fine. 2 mana remain. Opponent has 2 Planeswalkers on board. They have Rip Apart. No! Well, darn it. We really did want to keep that card. Okay. Land here makes things interesting. But not interesting enough, I think. We're just going to head straight to combat. Plow into Teferi. And Narset. Teferi leaves the battlefield. Narset on just a single loyalty. But it's okay. We don't typically draw a bunch of cards anyway. So we're just going to hold up the Quandrix Command because of the Shark Typhoon. This is a pretty enticing board to just try and run it out, right? They need single color interaction, things like that. So this way, we get to counter the Shark Typhoon and grow our wolf outside of Deafening Clarion range. And oh boy, our opponent was not prepared for that outcome. Goes with Sacred Foundry untapped. We go with Gala Greeters, Brokers Ascendancy. Admittedly, folks, I was shortcutting a bit here. Had kind of smelled blood in the water, so to speak. I was supposed to do that post-combat. They shocked in the Sacred Foundry, which told me they had something. Something. Right? So I should have respected that and at least did it post-combat. I don't regret any of the decisions we made, except for doing it pre-combat. So our opponent runs out Yorion. Well, darn it, they're going to get our Stonecoil Serpent here. No, they don't. Oh, my goodness. Kind of a huge punt from our opponent. They could have given us back the Swarm Shambler as a 1/1. It would have triggered the Gala Greeters. It's true. And so the Gala Greeters grows just a little bit and everything. But they could have gotten our Stonecoil Serpent because it's not multicolored. Stonecoil Serpent currently unblockable, folks. Unblockable. So we're just going to charge in like this. Our opponent has to block the 5/5. They can't block the 6/6. So we're just going to add the Jegantha to hand. Well, why didn't you cast Stonecoil Serpent there? You could have grown the Gala Greeters. Well, because honestly, I feel like 2 is essentially the same as 3 here. And if they do have a board sweeper, which we wouldn't be surprised by, we would much rather be able to rebuild with a big Stonecoil Serpent and a big Jegantha just to make our opponent's life difficult. So, opponent goes down with Narset, digging for interaction, finds Shark Typhoon. Fine. That's not really going to do much here. It could be one big shark, but there's 3 individually lethal threats. Okay, our opponent goes X equals 0, digging even deeper here, probably looking for things like Farewell. And did you find it? Opponent cycles away a Ketria Triome. Looking better, folks. They have to have 3 separate 1-mana answers, and that's going to be a tough ask for sure. Narset Parter of Ales comes down because our opponent wants to see what would have been in the top 4 cards. And we're about to find out what that would have... No, it doesn't even show us. Scoops them up. All right. GG, Burn and Fire. GG. All right, folks. Welcome back. Welcome back. We had a great time. So here's the thing. I think the deck is fine. Did good. We kind of struggled. You didn't get to see all the games because honestly, they were very, very similar. So many of them. I had already... I ended up recording for several hours, quite a few hours, to get as much footage as we got because we just kept like win one, lose one, win one, lose one sort of thing against those black, red, all discard style decks. We still showed you a few of them because honestly, after several hours worth of recording, I was like, I guess it's just an accurate representation of the current meta, you know? But the deck did fine. I wouldn't say it was bad or anything. As a matter of fact, when we played it on stream, we had a 67% win rate with it. So can't really complain at all. I do think it actually gets notably better since we are a synergy-based deck. Thought Seizes and things are generally pretty good against us. So when they take our only Brokers Ascendancies or Hadana's Climbs out of our hand, it makes it so we've just got to rely on very small creatures to win the game. Sometimes we do because they don't have any other interaction. Sometimes we lose, right? So I think now that Winota is banned, the changes we would make here would be Containment Priest for sure. I think we would pull this, but we probably want something that's going to interact with the graveyard because I think Parhelion is going to get notably better and probably become a relatively large portion of the meta. So be concerned about that. Unlicensed Hearse, a good decision. Weathered Runestone, a good decision if you want things that don't do anything, you know? But you could also go with any of these just as fun ofs. Things like Inscription of Abundance, you know, some of the Planeswalkers, preferably the more aggressive ones as well, right? So Gideons that can both attack, get loyalty counters, get, you know, all that thing would be kind of nice. Fight rating is not bad. You kind of want something a little bit bigger with it, though, because if we get a 7-power creature in this deck, we're winning. So I think this is actually a little bit of a trap. I might avoid that. I think Kodama the West Tree is a solid thing just for taking advantage of modified creatures having trample, things like that. Also getting some lands doesn't hurt. So that's pretty good as well. Wandering Emperor is just a very, very solid thing. Helps us go wide, so when we're throwing counters around with the Broker's Ascendancy, you can put both loyalty counters on the Wandering Emperor, but also get 2/2 Samurai. So it works very, very well together. We ended up being a little more aggressive, so we didn't go that direction. We do have 22 lands, though, so you could justify a Wandering Emperor or two if you wanted. So it's all up to you on the upgrade path. I would not discourage you from building it. I think the deck was fine and fun. But do keep in mind, with the Winota ban, the meta is going to be doing a little shifting around, and in the meantime, might struggle a little bit. But in the meantime, you folks have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you next time.